I do appreciate, let me echo what Dan said. I do appreciate everybody showing up so bright and early this morning. I told Dan this morning that this has been a rough week for myself because I'm actually working with a client right now in the Philippines. So all week long, my working hours have been from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. So I got 2.5 hours sleep last night. So I'm going to designate you. If you see me dozing off, just give me a little jab. All right, good, appreciate it. Okay, so let's get into this. Again, I understand it's early in the morning. With that said, we always start every meeting out with a safety, right? So the restrooms are across the hall. The nearest exit is out the door and over here. And if everybody agrees, across the street is the Pratt Street Pub. So can we just muster at the pub this morning? That would be, does that work for everybody? Okay, good. Yeah, plenty of time. Okay. I'm not gonna go through this, but this is a little bit about my background and who I am, okay? So I'll just go through this. This morning, what I want to talk about is essentially current state, right, where we are. I consider when we outsource, we have two ways we can outsource. We can do a commodity, what I call a commodity type outsourcing, and then we can also outsource our skilled crafts. Okay, so those are the two that we'll talk about. Some of the issues you're facing today, some of the key areas when considering outsourcing. I've seen some really good contracts and I've seen some really, really bad contracts. All right. Or let me restate that. I've seen some really good outsourcing strategies and I've seen some really bad outsourcing strategies. And it really comes down to how is the contract written. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The different types of service level agreements that we can talk about. And then finally, we'll talk about some key performance indicators that we can apply to our service providers. All right. The number one reason why maintenance and facility managers consider outsourcing is cost savings. That's the number one reason. What I want to say though is let's be crystal clear here. Okay, we're not saving the organization any money. All right. What we're trying to do right here, okay, is we're trying to balance our cost and our service levels and our performance. So I refer to that as balancing our costs, our performance, and our risk. Because really that's what we have. We're trying to cover and manage our risks. All right. So the goal then being to avoid a cost avoidance and avoid while increasing our customer satisfaction, because at the end of the day, that's really what we're trying to do, is improve our customer satisfaction. And so, you know, in this session, what I'm going to talk about then is proven insights and strategies to make that outsource strategy work for you and to avoid some of those pitfalls that I've seen over the years. Okay, so with that said, cost reductions and avoidance can take many shapes, such as recruiting, your training, your healthcare benefits, that enable the facility to take the services of highly experienced and trained services that you don't currently have in-house. Typical maintenance, this is a good one. A typical maintenance technician will spend about 24 to 26% of their day walking to and from the job site. All right. And they will spend another 18% of their day looking for parts or tools. Now, two things. I'm not very smart, and it's very early in the morning for me, but I can do some math. That's almost 50% of their day not doing what? I can tell you one thing, they're not doing what we're paying them to do. right? So you're going to see that later on, all right? So how do we increase the utilization of our workforce? And I'm going to show you something, all right? I've shown this Excel spreadsheet. Dan, I've lost counts how many times I've spoken at these conferences, all right? But I've done Vegas, I've done Orlando, and I've certainly done Baltimore for a number of years, okay? Just about every single one of those, I'm going to show you a spreadsheet that I created years ago, all right? And is one of the most powerful tools that I am more than happy to share with everybody and anybody who wants it. And we're going to talk about that because one of your challenges is when you want to make decisions about whether do we keep it in-house or do we outsource, you need to truly understand the cost of maintenance. So I'm going to show you, and I think you may have an eye-opening moment, an aha moment, as we say. Yeah, let me get back to that bullet right there. I am not suggesting that we have bad technicians or a bad maintenance group. What I am suggesting, though, is the system that we've set them up in could potentially be the issue. Okay, that allows that to happen. Anybody know what the average utilization of a technician is? Worldwide, by the way. Anybody guess? What's the average utilization of a technician? I'm sorry? Ooh, all right. I got 50, 50, 40, 40. Can I hear 30, 30, 30, 30, 35, 40, 20, 20? Anybody? Anybody? Any other guesses? 30%. All right. We seem to be settling on 30%. That's not a bad guess, by the way. 17 to 24. Typical utilization of a facilities technician is 17 to 24%. Now, if you think about it, let's just use for the sake of argument an 8-hour day, which I'm going to show you this in the spreadsheet that I keep threatening you with. In an 8-hour day, that's our 100% capacity, right? But we need to start chipping away at that. I can start chipping away at the travel time. I can start chipping away at looking for those parts and those materials. I can start taking time away for breaks, for lunch, meetings, whatever the case may be. All that contributes and chips away at that capacity. And that's what leads to a 17 to 24% average utilization. Would your maintenance staff be happy with getting 17% of their pay? Would they be happy with 24% of their pay? Right? All right, so what can we do? Can we increase that with our current staff, or do we look for the other options such as outsourcing? Okay. So managers must decide or determine if there's an internal issue with your internal processes or with your people. And if so, whether outsourcing is going to provide more cost-effective return on your investment. So managers need to keep in mind that you're paying for a technician's experience. So that's what I just said. Look, I'm willing to pay for quality service, but what I'm not willing to do is pay 100% for 50%, okay, of that service. And that's what a lot of us are doing right now today, is we're still paying 100%, but we're only getting 50% or 17 to 24%. Now, what does that equate to in full-time employees? By us operating at a 17 or 24% utilization, how many full-time employees does that take to make up for that difference? The ability to contract out maintenance activities effectively and efficiently has always been a struggle with everybody. Every single time I talk at these conferences, I get a question like that. At the end of the session, when we do our Q&A, that is definitely one of the questions I'm going to get. What is my feeling about outsourcing? All right. And being the consultant that I am, I respond as a typical consultant. That depends. Okay. So this is some of the things you need to talk about. What is the motivate to outsource? You know, what is the current in-house skill set? Are we looking for cost reductions? Are we looking for labor savings? Are we looking for skills availability? Because you know this, all right, and you're going to see this actually on the next slide, I think. The talent pool is getting pretty thin, all right? It's getting pretty low out there, as we would say, slim pickings, all right? And then once you do find that little diamond in the rough, if you will, what I'm seeing out in the world right now is an incredible amount of turnover, okay? When successful managers can reduce maintenance expenses by employing a contractor with more expertise and skills than perhaps your current in-house skill set. So we have two options, commodity and skilled. When I talk about commodity, I'm talking about some basic activities that need to be done where I don't necessarily need a high level of skill. Lawn care. That's one of the examples, all right? Or exterior, something like that, where I don't really need the contractor to have a high level of skills. They just need to be able to ride a tractor or a lawnmower and cut the lawn, or rake some leaves or make the exterior of the building look nice. Some pretty basic stuff, right? Managers can easily outsource, all right? The question is, do you want to take that internal resources and apply it to something like that? I write an article for a column for NFMT and facilities maintenance decisions. And last month's article was written on this. I visited a site a couple years ago, and when I was pulling into this site, I saw 7 or 8 individuals with gas trimmers. And they're outside the facility, and 7 of them are walking along the yard there, trimming the grass. And I asked the gentleman who I was working with, I said, are they actually cutting the lawn with gas trimmers? And the answer was yes, they were. So of course, I have to ask why, all right? And the reason was the previous year, this is unfortunate, it's actually not funny, it's actually very unfortunate. The previous year, one of the contractors was riding a rider mower and they tipped over and was killed. So the insurance company jacked up their premiums, so it was cheaper for this organization to actually hire 7 people with gas trimmers to cut the lawn than it was to pay the insurance premiums. That just can't compute with me, all right? Because personally, I'm pretty anal when it comes to cutting my lawn, all right? And a gas trimmer just won't cut it because everything has to be level in my yard, all right? I like to be I'm the type of guy that on odd weeks I go north-south and on the other weeks I go east-west, okay? And that's how I cut my lawn. And if I really want to get creative, on the 3rd week, I'll actually cut it diagonally, all right? I want my neighbors to have lawn envy. All right. Consider, all right, in this basic stuff, cost is probably going to be your determining factor. All right, because if it doesn't work out, it's pretty easy that we can find another resource to do that. Does that make sense? All right, so I call it commodity type maintenance, pretty basic stuff. There's probably at least a dozen service providers out there that we can pick and choose from. All right. Now, on the other side, I have this thing called skilled base. Now it gets a little bit more complicated here. Now, cost is not the only factor. Matter of fact, quite the opposite. All right. So, looking at the skilled label internally, there's some things that we should be able to do, or some things that we should do to make the right business decisions. The first step that we do is a job task analysis. So these are all the tasks that this role is going to be responsible for. Okay? That's step 1. Step 2 then is we need to do an internal skills assessment. At what level of competency does this need to be to execute this task within the job? And from that analysis, that's going to lead us into our skills gap analysis. And if you want to take it one step further and your decision is to keep it in-house, from that skills gap analysis, that will lead into your training program. That will lead into your training plan or your training budget for next year, whatever the case may be. That's the sequence. That's how this works. Job task analysis, skills assessment, skills gap analysis. And from the skills gap analysis, that decision might be like, look, I just don't have the resources here. I don't have the right skill set yet. So now I can start looking at the other options. Outsourcing. The goal for managers then is to consider outsourcing maintenance to balance the cost and service in a way that optimizes your operations. So when this process succeeds, managers can reduce maintenance expenses by employing contractors, perhaps with more expertise and more technology, or the latest technology, which I'm going to talk about in a minute as well. I just talked about this. Finding skilled and competent personnel has become a challenge. I hear it all around the world. I do. There's a skills gap analysis. I'm sorry, there's a skills gap. I just had a conversation last night. Yes, last night. He is a vice president of operations for an operation in New Mexico. And he has been trying to hire a maintenance manager for the last 4 months. And he thinks he found it. That's why he called me last night. He said, I think I found the guy. And I'm like, man, get your hooks in him now, right? Because the pool is pretty shallow, as I said. But there's a couple of other reasons, right? Okay, so aging staff, I'll move on from that one. Technicians moving on to other organizations and just outright quitting. I just read an article, some of you may have seen it. I mean, there was millions of people that have quit over the last 2 years because of the pandemic. You know, they discovered that, man, you know what? There's more to life than 8 to 5. Me personally, I was a little frightened to get back on the road traveling around the world again because my dog is going to be in deep depression. Total opposite of my wife. My wife is like, shouldn't you be back on the road pretty soon? Okay, so that is a big thing. One of the other people that I worked, one of the other maintenance managers I worked with in Minnesota, they're struggling because another operation opened up their doors 4 or 5 miles down the road, and they're offering $1 or more an hour. And all the maintenance technicians are jumping ship and moving on down the road for $1 more. All right, but that's what all of you are challenged with right now. So outsourcing work to an organization that specializes in facility maintenance or a needed skill can be an attractive strategy for managers. Yes, that's probably why you're here. Man, have things advanced at warp speed, okay? I remember when we were all excited because we were gonna upgrade to Windows 95, right? But now you have all these new things. You got this building information modeling. You have this thing called Internet of Things. HVAC systems are just off the charts. Online monitoring. We have AI out there. We have technology out there that is telling us when the equipment is not feeling well. All right. And now we got this new thing called digital twin. Okay, where we can take data and we can artificially recreate that piece of equipment and we can run some analysis on that. And then that analysis will spit back to tell us how to better manage that equipment. And this is mind-blowing. All right. Unfortunately, because of this new technology, our internal skills is not keeping up with that. So a lot of facilities out there will invest thinking that this new technology will be that silver bullet, when in reality, what we're doing is we're spending this money and nobody really knows how to truly optimize that technology. So maybe we go outside the facility and we look for somebody who does know how to use that. Some of the benefits: contract service provider can offer skilled services that managers may not be able to provide. Many contractors offer a full range of different types of maintenance activities. So now you can bundle those different services. All right. So sort of like a one-shop stop. Bundling these services can make managing process, oh man. Are there any managers in here? Any supervisors or managers? Do you truly enjoy managing people? I used to, on my business card, I used to cross out my job title. And I would pencil in Vice President of Child Care Services. You know what I'm talking about, right? So that's one of the things. By the way, feel free to use that, Vice President of Child Care Services. All right, it works every time. But that's what that's talking a little bit about, right? Just removing the HR aspect of the business, you know, managing the schedules, managing all the things that you're maybe currently doing. All right, and let somebody else deal with that. Okay, the last bullet I've already talked about. Basing your decision strictly on cost, on the lowest cost, will ultimately cost you in the long run. That is true. I've seen it over and over again. And I can tell you a bunch of different stories about that. Probably the biggest one was a number of years ago. There was a large organization. Everybody in this room knows who they are. They made the decision to outsource their maintenance. Okay. And it was announced that they were going to outsource their maintenance. They had made that announcement 3 months prior to that date. So everybody knew in maintenance that we weren't going to have a job in 3 months. All right. Mistake number one. So therefore, this organization stopped all financing for maintenance with the anticipation that this other company was going to come in and take over the operation. Now, this is true. Okay, this is a true story. The outsourcing company came in with 2 individuals. There were 17 buildings on this campus. Okay, they did their due diligence walkthrough in an hour and a half with their inspections in 17 buildings. The contract was written as is condition. All right, and the way the contract was written was lump sum, which you're going to see this in a minute, was lump sum, meaning you pay for all the labor, you pay for all the materials, because we're going to just pay you a lump sum. I hadn't performed any maintenance for the last 3 months. How do you think it went over with the outsourcing company? I can tell you, the first month they took over, they lost $1 million. All right. Now I'm going to blame the people that did their due diligence and walked through that facility in 17 buildings, and after an hour and a half said, yep, we're good. We'll take it as is. All right, so I'm going to blame those individuals. Now, they couldn't get out of that contract fast enough, but unfortunately, it was a 1-year-long contract. That's the way it was written. All right, so this is a two-way street. This is a two-way street. Okay, this is really what I want to share with you. You have to use good data in order to make a good business decision. Everybody in the room has heard that saying, garbage in, garbage out. All right. What you need to understand is what is your true cost of maintenance. Managers, how can managers streamline the service provider evaluation process in order to reap the rewards? One important step is to establish your baseline. And one of those baselines is going to be, what is your maintenance cost? Your true maintenance cost. Now, again, what I'm going to show you is this spreadsheet right here. By far and away, this is the number one thing that I share with all my clients and all my people. Man, I did not mean to say that. All right, my people. Anybody who attends the conferences, I'll share it with, okay? Most organizations, most managers view their maintenance cost as labor rate and materials, right? Is that a good assumption? All right. Let me show you the reality. I have to go up here. Because unfortunately I can't toggle. I don't know why, but I can't toggle. Let me exit. Okay, come on, why are you not coming up? There we go. Okay, this is what I want to share with you. Why can't I do this? Interesting. Okay. Can everybody see that? No, you probably can't in the back, right? Excuse me, ma'am. Could you please cover your left eye and read the third line down for me on that? That would be great, okay? Has anybody been to the eye doctor lately? And they put that goofy little machine over your face and they're like, what's clear? A, B, A, B. And I'm always like, I don't know. I don't see any difference between A and B. Just pick one, right? All right. I'm not sure why I'm not being able to see this, so I apologize. This is very frustrating. All right, I apologize. I need to figure this out because this is the aha moment, all right? Why can't I show this? I'm sorry, I can't show, I'm not seeing it on my screen. That's the issue. So I'm not sure why. I'm sorry? So tell me again, because obviously I want to display it there and there. Well, now that's very unfortunate. Okay, that's the end of the session. Any questions? All right. Oh, excellent. Just in time. At this point in the conversation, this is when we play the themes music from Superman. Can you convert that so I can work on this on the screen? Oh, right on. Excellent. Good suggestion. Take Sunday off. Excellent. Don't touch anything. Round of applause for our AV individual, please. You saved the day, man. I appreciate that. Okay. Let me walk through this a little bit. On the top of this spreadsheet, that is what it is, okay? In this particular example, there was 42 technicians working for this organization. The average hourly rate was $39.32, right? That's what everybody sees, is the average hourly rate. If you take 42 individuals times 2,080, right? That's a full year. So that means, 100% of my capacity then is 87,360 hours. Is everybody with me so far? All right. They worked 15,000. I think they had, if I remember, I think they had 18%. They were working 18% overtime. So that was an additional 15,000 hours to add into the bucket. If I add in my managing salary, my supervision salary, and my storeroom personnel or my warehouse personnel, that brought the total maintenance budget up to $4.7 million. All right. Now, if I do the math, I can take that budget and divide it by 42, and it is no longer costing your organization $39.32. We have now increased that to $54 an hour. Everybody with me so far? All right, good, because when I do this in the afternoon, half the audience is asleep by now. All right, so now right below that, I have these uncontrollable costs. There's nothing we can do about it because that's our organization's company policy on as far as personal time off or PTO or vacation time. All right, so in this particular example, everybody got 3 weeks or 15 days. And then they also had an absenteeism rate of 4%. So I need to take that out of my bucket, right? I need to take that out of my bucket of availability. So I'm chipping away at those, 87,000 hours. Now, when I do that, I need to reduce those hours. And when I start doing the math, my hourly rate now goes up to $59.69. Again, is everybody with me so far? It's the bottom section that I want you to look at. This is that aha moment, all right? These are the controllable expenses. Now, keep in mind, these are not my numbers, all right? This was this client's numbers, and I do this with just about everybody I work with. This is an 8-hour shift, all right? So you can start doing the math in your head. Everybody gets 30 minutes for lunch, okay? So 30 minutes every day times 42, I need to take those hours out of my bucket, right? Non-authorized breaks. They average an hour and a half a day. What is non-authorized breaks? Smoke breaks, bathroom breaks, sitting around. If lunch is at noon, do the technicians stop at 11:59 and go to lunch? You can't go to lunch, man, that late, right? Because you don't want to pull a hammy going to lunch or anything, right? So there's sort of a cool down period in there, right? Now at 12:30, do you get right back on the job again? Oh, heck no, man, because that's when carpal tunnel syndrome starts setting in and stuff. So there's a warm-up period right on that too. So we have to ease back into the job, right? Planning and instructing. So each one of these technicians were developing their own job plans, if you will. Okay, so they'd go out, they'd troubleshoot what was wrong, and they'd come back and they'd scope out the work and they'd develop their own job plans. They averaged about an hour and a half a day. Waiting for materials or looking for parts or tools, another hour a day. And then some of these other things, all right? That all chips away, and that's what contributes to your 17 to 24% utilization, okay? Now, what does that mean by us operating at that utilization rate? Or what is the utilization rate based on these numbers? 25%. Direct time, direct labor is what, 18%? Yeah, all right, so we're in the average. So they fell between that 17 and 24%. Now, look at how many hours did what was my maximum capacity of hours? Does anybody remember? 87,000, right? Look at how many hours they're actually working. 19,700. But your organization is paying for what? 87,000 plus 14 or 15,000 because they were working overtime. So what does that translate into now as far as full-time employees and your average hourly rate? We started out as $39 an hour. We are now up to $239 an hour. That equates to, of the 42 people, 28 of them can sit in the cafeteria all day long. That's what that means. Very few organizations look at this. They look at the $39 an hour. The reality is $390 or $239. That's your challenge. Does it make sense to outsource now, or does it make sense to keep things in-house? But what I want to show you, though, is what happens by making small tweaks. Watch some of these numbers here. What happens if I start giving enough work to keep everybody busy because my estimated hours to perform work is getting more dialed in? I'm still going to give you 30 minutes for non-authorized breaks, but I'm going to give you enough work to fill that other hour up. So this number goes to 30. Watch the numbers on the bottom. Now drops down to 159. Have I hired anybody, by the way? I haven't hired anybody. My full-time employee rate, my headcount utilization now actually goes up. If I start developing job plans, or if I take one of those technicians and start putting them as a maintenance planner, developing job plans, so the technicians are no longer developing their job plans, we could take that away. Now you're up down to $106. Your utilization is up to 56%. Your full-time employees is down to 17. And if we start doing something with our materials, we can reduce that number as well. I'm sorry, what? I did not. 100%. But I'm going to make up that lost headcount by the massive increase to our utilization of the other 41 people. So if I took the materials away, you're at world-class numbers now. World-class utilization is 65%. So that's the power. Now, again, if anybody wants a spreadsheet, have at it. Just give me your information and I'll be more than happy to send it out to you, all right? But this is what I want you to look at when you're taking a look at, do we outsource or do we keep it in-house? All right. Gosh, I hope this works. Yes, yes. Dan, give that man a raise. Thanks. Okay, so that's the power of this. Okay, moving along here. Sorry for that temporary delay. Okay, so when we get actually into the contracts, when we are starting to make the decision, then the first thing that we have to do is, what is the scope of services? Right, what is it that we want somebody to do? All right, some of the inputs here for that, the services to include and the services to exclude. So now we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty detail. And this is where I see a lot of conflict with the service providers and the organization. Your maintenance policies, your strategic maintenance plans, if you have those, and any of the other considerations, okay? And then what should we look at when we consider these right here? These are all the different things that these are suggestions that you may want to look at. What is the scope of work? Okay, what's in our sandbox? What is your cost, of course? What's your experience at doing what we want you to do? Because I want references. I'm sorry, let me get out of the way. Here, hold on, let me get in the picture. Let me photobomb that for you. All right. What's your technical skill? Oh boy, that's an interesting one. Workmanship. Does your group take pride in their work? And I got a bunch of examples like that as well. Because there's a big difference between doing the job and doing the job well with a high level of workmanship and taking a pride in that. What's their responsiveness? Okay. What technology do they use? What's their safety record? I mean, so these, and I'm not going to read through them all, okay, because you can see them, but these are some of the things that you may want to consider, not just cost. Okay, I've already talked about this, all right, about price. There are dozens of tools out there. There are. I mean, if you just get on Google and Google some of this stuff, you're going to see a whole bunch of worksheets that you can grab out there, all right? But what I do suggest, though, is you customize that to meet your needs. But the first thing is this thing called the best value procurement, BVP, which looks at several of the factors that include qualifications, experience, all these things. Typical managers assign a value to each factor. And most likely what you're going to do is you're going to scale that. You're going to put a weight factor in those different things because not everything carries the same weight or importance. It does define in steps. It identifies the scope of service. You need to customize that, as I said, to choose the relevant factors for you. And then we assign, there's where we assign the values or the weighted averages. Service level agreements, details of services and responsibilities. Facility or procurement managers often review the activities for the contractor. So we do need to manage our contractors. All right, just because I've delegated that, I still need to manage them. Which by the way, that may include going out there and auditing some of their work. Okay. And again, I got a bunch of examples on that one too. All right. But all it takes is just auditing their work one time and you plant that seed that you can audit them at any time. The key then is the type of contract that you're going to put in place. Okay. So these are different examples right here. There's the lump sum. Favored when both parties negotiate and accept a clear scope of services, schedules, their deliverables, and they agree to the key performance indicators that you're going to use to measure their performance. The other one is cost plus contract. That represents the percentage of the labor and material cost, which covers ongoing costs of operating and service providers plus their margin. The other one is time and materials, which we don't really, personally, I don't particularly like because we can just run a range. They can charge essentially whatever they want. All right. I actually had an addition put on my house 2 years ago. I actually had the contractor come back to my house last week and he said, you know, if we did the same work this year, it would cost you 40% more because of the cost of lumber. And I said, okay, well, the addition you put on would be 40% smaller. So the other one is unit price contracts, also referred to as an hourly rate, and are a combination of reimbursable expenses plus their fixed labor rates. All right, so there's a bunch of different contracts out there. These are just a couple of examples right here. What is incredibly important though, right, is that what's in scope, what's out of scope, and what type of contract, and we have to be crystal clear. Now, one of the things, I'll tell you a very quick story. There is a very large food and beverage company that everybody in this room knows. I don't see anybody drinking it right now. All right. It's very funny because when you work with this company, you can't mention their competitor. They refer to their competitor as dirty water, which is pretty funny. So you're forbidden from saying the other name. They outsourced their storeroom to a contractor, okay? Storeroom contractor, you manage all my materials, you issue all the materials out to the work orders, you do all the buying, you do everything with the materials. They brought me in to review the contract, all right? And I reviewed the contract and I said, if this contractor can do everything that they're saying they can do, I'll go work for them. Because it was just, this is the pie in the sky type stuff that they wrote in the contract, which that was the hook. That was the bait. That was the hook. They got the contract. 14 months later, this company brought me back in to say, will you please retrain our people on how to run a storeroom? Because it was miserable. It was a total disaster. And by the way, when they lost the contract, they picked up their marbles and they went home, meaning they took their CMMS and computer system with them, which means all the materials, all the purchasing history, everything went out the door with them. And now all of a sudden, that happened on Friday afternoon. Now Monday, people come in, they're like, I don't know. I have no idea what we bought. I have no idea who the supplier is. I have no idea what the part is. I have no idea what the filter, right? So they're starting from scratch. So there's another example. All right, measuring vendor performance against KPIs is essential. We've all heard what gets measured gets done. When it comes to vendor management, managers must use numerous key performance indicators. I have to. We have to have key performance indicators in place to make sure that they're achieving the contract and the expectations. All right, if they're not, time out, we're gonna have a conversation. All right, let's get together. All right, or on the flip side, if they are, great job, thanks very much, appreciate your efforts. All I can say right now is thank goodness my wife does not have any key performance indicators on me, because we would probably be having a discussion. Well, we have discussions whether I want to have a discussion or not. All right. Okay, so some of those key performance indicators, service levels. What is your response time? How quick do we respond, all right, to those phone calls and those requests? Backlog, that's always an interesting one. Backlog is not past due work. Backlog is everything that's in the system that has not been completed yet. That's the definition of backlog. So if my backlog gets too great, that means our work is piling up. So I want to make sure that I keep that backlog at a manageable level, or you're going to have some pretty unhappy customers. All right, that's what backlog is. Schedule compliance, absolutely. All right, what is the key performance indicator for executing the schedules? So schedule performance. Maybe you got your cost per linear foot. Maybe that's one of the other KPIs. We have total costs as a percentage of replacement value. How much would it cost to replace your facility? That's the return, that's the replacement asset value. Or another term for that is ERV, which is equipment replacement value. World class, we want that around 3%. So your maintenance costs, if you want to, by the way, very rough. But if you want to know if the maintenance costs are in line with industry, see if the maintenance costs are within a 3% ratio to the total replacement cost of your facility. Reactive versus planned maintenance. Okay, how many times does the radio go off or the phone calls come into the call center? Versus being proactive and having a proactive maintenance strategies. Addressing failures before they become failures. Here's my quality issue. So there's a couple metrics we use there: mean time between failures, mean time to repair. The other one that we can measure is rework. 63% of maintenance activity is self-induced. It's called maintenance-induced maintenance. All right. It always seems that we never have enough time to do it right the first time, but we always have time to do it again and again and again and again. We can track our complaints, all right, and track that. And then some other things to consider is communication and conflict resolution. So how do we communicate with our suppliers? Do we have a weekly meeting with them? Do we review the KPIs with them? All right, do we have an open communication with them? All right, is it a healthy relationship or is it adversarial? I joke around. In September, my wife and I will be married for 41 years. We've been happily married for 7. It's because I learned how to communicate, apparently. on and off. That wasn't consecutive 7 years. Okay, that was every odd year or something like that. All right, so finally, as a summary, managers must understand the true cost of maintenance. I hope I showed that to you. It's not $39 an hour. It is something far, far greater than that. Managers are trying to achieve a balance between the cost, your performance, and the risk by doing that. That's what you're trying to balance. Managers considering outsourcing also need to weigh the level of customer service and the quality of the workmanship that your contractors can provide, hence key performance indicators or measures or metrics, whatever you want to call it. Managers should revisit those KPIs regularly to make sure that we need to make sure that we're going down the boulevard and they're not going down the avenue. You follow along with me? Does that make sense? That's part of my communication plan with those contractors as well. All right. They may think they're doing the greatest job in the world, and you may have some completely other, or your customers may have a completely different perception, right? Because perception is reality. And then finally, when a manager has a well-defined scope of service requirements in place, qualitative and quantitative methodologies in selecting the right provider with the appropriate type of contract, and the correct KPIs, policies, and procedures, all right, and conflict resolution, the result is more likely to be a cost-effective, beneficial relationship between you and that service provider. Okay. Perfect. Questions, comments? I used to have a staff meeting with my group, and I ended every staff meeting with the same thing. Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns? Any rumors? Because if I knew the rumors, I knew how to run my facility. Yes, sir.
On your Excel spreadsheet, I asked you if you added a person.
Yep.
The reason is you dropped your time down to 0, but you can't really do that because you took a person away as a technician to do that job full time. So now
correct.
You have 11.5 minutes per technician that you need to allocate in that space.
And you did that math really quick. 11.5 minutes. Okay.
Just that.
Good information. As I said, you're going to make up that 1 or 2 head counts and move them into another position, because those individuals, if they do their job correctly, will increase the utilization of the other 40 technicians. Not necessarily. I'm sorry if everybody could hear that question. The question, if I understand it, is you're saying not if that person can do what everybody else does? Okay, can that planner come up with a job plan for whether it's electrical, mechanical, right, HVAC and all that? Great question. Does anybody got an answer? Because I don't. No, I'm only kidding. The answer to that is the active maintenance is a recurring activity. All right? The active maintenance is a recurring activity. Now, when we do that activity, we're not really sure. Could be tomorrow, could be next week, it could be next month, it could be next year, it could be in the year 2035. But we will be pretty much assured we will execute that same maintenance activity again. So how many times does a maintenance planner need to create a detailed job plan, that corrective maintenance? 1 time. Now, if that maintenance planner has to create that job plan 1 time, my recommendation is that they get a subject matter expert to help them develop that job plan. I can draw every maintenance shop organization in the world, by the way. 20, 40, 30, and 10. And I think a lot of you can relate to this. 20% of your group are superstars. They can fix anything. Give them a potato, a rubber band, a paper clip, and by gosh, they can make a 12-gauge shotgun out of the thing. All right, they're that good. I got 40% of our staff that are very good at what they do. They're talented, they're smart, okay? They come in every day and they do a very good job of what they do. And at the end of the day, they go home and they crack a beer and they self-medicate. Love them. Then I got 30% of the group that might be brand new to your organization or brand new to maintenance. All right, but they got potential. All right. And then I got the 10%er. Anybody want to tell me attributes of a 10%er? Every organization has one, by the way. Every fiber in their body is negative. You guys don't do any work. I do all the work. The organization doesn't pay me enough. All right. Everybody picks on me, but I'm the only one who does any work here. Okay. My wife left me and my dog's got 3 legs. I mean, every fiber in their body is negative. Where I'm going with this though is who would I want to help make that job plan as best I could? I would probably look for one of the 20%ers to help me develop that job plan or the 40%ers. I'm only using that technician to help me develop that job plan. So I may lose him for a couple hours, mostly.
And then you can do the skill flexibility chart for how to do the task in the connection.
Yeah, perfect.
Then they sort of do it by themselves, and someone do it by themselves. The project for that's the way it's happening.
So when we set up the skills matrix, we use this thing called AKSM. All right. Does this person need to be aware? That's the A. Does this person need to be knowledgeable about this? That's the K. Do they need to be skilled in this task? That's the S. And then the M is, does this person need to be a master in this task? So that matrix can help you identify that individual. So great suggestion. Thank you. Anybody else? Really? Come on, I got 42 seconds.